All right, guys, welcome back to First Seed Fantasy. I'm your host, Donte, with me, my best friends, Zach, Kyle, Mike. Today, well, first off, let me just say we're sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a great spot where you can weekly set up lineups and bet against fellow people instead of having those ESPN or sleeper applications where it's once a week and you have the same team. With Underdog, you're able to create a whole team each week and compete with your friends. So do that. You're also able to do props as well. It doesn't matter the state jurisdiction. So always go with Underdog just because it's fast, it's convenient, go straight to your PayPal. You don't have to worry about any transactions or any missed money. So don't worry about that. First deposit, $100, they match you with it. So yeah, get betting, and you can compete with us as well. So to start off with our start sits, I'm going to go with Foster Moreau, tight end for the Oakland Raiders. We don't know the situation with Darren Waller. Thank God he didn't have a season-ending injury with that knee. It looks like it's just going to be an IT band strain. So we may see him back in a couple of weeks just in time for the playoff run. But in the meantime, Foster Moreau is going to take that leading spot. When he started week 7, he got 100% of the snap shares, 6 targets, 6 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. This past week, when Darren Waller did sit out, he had 77% of the snap shares. Didn't get the workload, but he wasn't a part of the game plan to start off. So I think with this week, with the preparation, he'll get those opportunities. Derek Carr doesn't really have a lot of weapons, and he's an athletic weapon, Foster, as well. He can separate himself from linebackers and get some open field touches. So yeah, I'm starting to Foster Moreau this week.
Yeah, I love Foster this week. You said it when he played week 7 in place of Waller. He had those 6 targets, 6 receptions, 60 yards, and that touchdown. And actually, even 2 weeks ago against the Bengals, he had another touchdown. So even when he's not the replacement for Waller, he is still the guy that could get a reception or 2 in the end zone. But this week, with the full, just him being the tight end, he could get those targets that Waller has been hogging and probably do just as well with them. And yeah, I love it, especially in this tight end wasteland we're living in. I think Foster's a fantastic start.
Yeah, I'll tag on to that there really quick. I won't say too much. I absolutely love the play. Even last week with Waller going down mid-game, they both still saw a good amount of targets. Foster saw 5 and Waller also saw 5. So the volume's definitely there for the position on the team. It looks like Waller in the past 4 weeks has kind of gotten into that groove of great week and then not so great, great week, not so great. So hopefully that snaps for the position as a whole. But I do like Foster. I think it's a great play considering the volume. So, yeah, definitely love the play this week.
And just, again, I'm going to pile on, but to look at the position as a whole this week and not necessarily just specifically the Raiders tight end core, it's a down week for tight ends, I think, especially without Big D Waller in there. It's just there's kind of not a lot of top end talent this week. I mean, like there's Kelsey and there's Kittle and Andrews. And Gronk is in there too, but outside of that mix, there's just not a lot. So I really like Foster Moreau.
Yeah, and he's got the Eagles' defense going up. It's not really a huge D, so I think that he has a lot of opportunities to, make some production and hopefully, get the same numbers that Darren Waller's used to having. So, with that being said, we're going to head with Kyle with the next pick.
My start of the week is wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. This week, we are most likely not going to see big old Deebo Samuel. the target hog for the 49ers. But instead, we're going to see my man Ayuk. And in recent weeks, he's been, we all know he started the season really rough. But in these past, 5 weeks, he's at 7, 8, 4, 7, 6 targets, which is all you need with the skill set that Ayuk has to play at the level that he is. And now you kind of remove Debo from that equation, and I think Ayuk is in place to have a smash week against the Seahawks defense that isn't playing all too great. So I think this is kind of a great spot for him to have a big week.
Yeah, and let me I'm sorry, I'm pulling up his stats here. I wanted to see the main thing with Ayuk is what did he do last year when he had the reins? And I'm looking at it now, and he absolutely went berserk without Debo, and I think without Kittle for a long time too at the end of the year there. He had a stretch where he put up 17.5, 23, 19.7, 20.5, 21.9, 22.3. So the guy's phenomenal. He has the talent to play the position, and it even looks like last year as well. He saw some double-digit targets in those games. So with this offense kind of being beat up, Kittle is still there. He'll probably take most of the red zone work, but I love Ayuk. I have him in a few leagues as well, and I'm extremely excited to play him this week.
Yeah, I was just looking at his snap shares. That's the main thing for me with Ayuk that kind of was disgruntling me to in the beginning of the season. With the 47% snap share, he didn't even get a target in the first week. But from weeks 8 through 12 through now, 88%, 93%, 90%. That's the most important thing is just being on the field. That was a problem with him in the beginning of the season. Now that he is on the field, he's getting those touches with Debo out. Debo is such a focal point for that offense that his absence is going to provide a lot more opportunities for everyone on that offense. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Brandon Ayuk. I'm glad I kept him in my dynasty league because I was close to selling him, but yeah, now I feel good about keeping him.
And again, I'm just going to pile onto the party here. I think that really since the Niners have kind of let Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball a little bit more, there was such a run heavy, kind of plot and tried team with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and even who else am I missing? Elijah Mitchell at this point, and what we thought was going to be Trey Sermon, but they've kind of let Jimmy throw the ball a little bit now. And I think with him going to the air a little bit more, he's been right around 200 yards or more for the last 6 weeks now. He was down at 181, 182, and 176 for 3 of those weeks. But that's 200 yards or so. And really in that passing attack, you split it between 3 guys. Split it between Big D, Debo Samuel. You split it between Brandon Ayuk, and you split it between George Kittle. So with taking one of those 3 out of the mix, that automatically opens up some targets for other guys, So I'm right there with you. I think it's a good start.
All right. Zach, do you want to take your start here, or you want me to go ahead?
No, I got it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start Jalen Waddle this week. I'm going to go ahead and just say straight up, I'm probably a homer on Jalen Waddle. As Kyle knows, we just started a Madden franchise, and I picked my team based on Jalen Waddle. So I'm a huge Jalen Waddle guy. I think he's got limitless potential. And quite honestly, I think even lately, I think in this season, he's, I would say, almost close to overtaking Jamar Chase. I think is the most impressive rookie this season. He's the key of consistency for that offense. That offense runs through him at this point. I know Myles Gaskin has gotten going a little bit, but I think that's actually a product of Jalen Waddle, because anytime they need to get the ball out of Tua's hands, they go to Waddle. And there's an obvious connection between the two of them there. Waddle's seen an insane amount of targets lately, especially. I think he's seeing over double-digit targets a game. Last couple of weeks, he's seen 10, 9, 6, 10, 11, 8, and 13. And out of those targets, he's reeling in a good amount of them. Like last week, he caught 9 out of 10 thrown his way. Week before that was 8 out of 9. 2 weeks before that was 8 out of 10. So he is reeling in the ball when he's getting it thrown to him. And as a wide receiver coach, one of the things that I love seeing is yards per catch. It's great if you can catch the ball behind the line of scrimmage, but at this point, his yard per catch in the last couple of weeks has been right around 15 yards, meaning he's starting to get the ball downfield. He's starting to stretch the field out a little bit, and really, it's just kind of a culmination of his game as a whole right now, especially in PPR. He's not really touchdown reliant, which is about as great of an attribute as you can have as a wide receiver, especially in PPR. He's only got 4 on the season, but he's still right now he's the wide receiver 11 in PPR formats. So I'm all about Jalen Waddle, especially against a mediocre Giants defense this week. I love him. He's my start of the week.
Yeah, I think we've seen Jalen Waddle become a sort of not front, but you're right. He's basically pretty soon to take over Jamar Chase for that Rookie of the Year conversation leader. But it's the targets. He is Mr. Reliable in PPR because he's going to be targeted. And I think the only threat to that is the eventual return of Devontae Parker. And I think that's looking to be this week. But truly, if it is, I don't see it being that much of a threat. And if it isn't, then I think Waddle gets jumped up by like 3 more spots. But regardless, I think Waddle, he's going to get the targets, he's going to get the receptions, and if he gets a touchdown, then he's scoring 30 points. But either way, he's going to make the catches, he's going to get a solid chunk of yards and be probably your safest floor receiver that you can start this week.
Kyle, as you said, he's a big reception guy. Brandon Cooks popped into my mind. He kind of reminds me of early career Brandon Cooks when he was with the Saints. You can catch on him for 8, 9, 10 catches a game for 100 yards or so. It's just captain consistency,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll kind of add on. I don't think there's a soul out there. There might be a few, and God bless you if this is the decision for you. But Waddle he came into the year as a guy with a lot of talent and on a bad football team where you didn't know where the rock was going to go to. As you just said, clearly, he is seeing the targets. The guy has plenty of stuff to do with those targets as well. Most of the stuff he does see is design plays to get him the ball. It's not like you got Tua back there going through reads and then, he's open. No, all these plays are mostly designed, and that's the biggest thing for me in fantasy football. I hate going with fantasy teams that don't know how to get their best player on the field the ball. And they clearly figured it out at this point. And you got the Dolphins, like a bunch of stuff scary, like all year with Devontae Parker in and out, Will Fuller in and out. Like I think Will Fuller actually played 1 game, but just his presence there and all this, and the talks all year was, he's not going to see that much volume. The guy's an absolute superstar at the age of 23. So I would have no problem at all throwing Waddle as a wide receiver 2 this week. Definitely a flex without a doubt, but Jalen Waddle, I absolutely have him in a few leagues, and I'm excited to play on this week.
Yeah, just to add on, I think it also Jalen Waddle's performance also correlates with Tua's performance as well. He's been playing a lot better over the past couple of weeks compared to the first. And I think that Waddle's kind of progressed because of that. Obviously, the shares and the targets are phenomenal, but I think the most important thing to look at, as we alluded to earlier, is the touchdown. Only 4 touchdowns this season. That's incredibly low for the production that Jalen Waddle gets. And I think that towards the later end of the season, with the schedule, especially weeks 16, 17, those weeks where it's kind of championship weekend, those are going to be really nice weeks if you have Jalen Waddle. If you're still in leagues where you're able to trade for him, those would be weeks that he'll be able to really step up for you if you make it that far.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also even say that in terms of like dynasty formats, because I know we don't really talk about dynasty leagues that much, but besides, I would argue that Jalen Waddle is probably the number 1 kind of fantasy talent, probably behind Jamar Chase, if you want to argue that. But I think Jalen Waddle is number 1 just because Jamar Chase is in an offense that is already really established and they have weapons all over the field, whereas Jalen Waddle is kind of that one-man Obviously, they have weapons and they're hurt, but I think Jalen Waddle is that established franchise wide receiver, especially with Tua. It's going to be an amazing pair up for a long time. So, yeah, Jalen Waddle fan here.
All right, and then I will cap it off here with my start. I'm going with Michael Gallup, another homer pick. I'll be right there with you, Zach. But yeah, Michael Gallup. They call him the East Coast Mike Williams for a reason. In this Dallas offense, this guy is strictly just a deep ball receiver, and he's going to do what he can underneath without routes and slants here and there. Main thing for me this week, while I love playing Gallup, I would rather play Gallup over your bottom of the line RB24 this week, RB2. And the main reason is Amari Cooper. So Amari Cooper made the trip. He's coming off of COVID. He's admitted himself he's a little tired, a little fatigued, still getting the hang of things on top of already being hurt. So I think in my mind here, I think they're going to get him down to New Orleans tomorrow for the game. And I think it's going to be a whole lot of Marshawn Lattimore on Amari Cooper. So I think a lot of stuff is going to open up for Michael Gallup. He's finally healthy, finally back in this offense. Past 3 weeks, even in the week where all of our wide receivers during the week were going down, he still saw 5 targets in that game. And then past 2 games, 10 targets and 8 targets. So the volume's there. The game plan's there. I love the game script going into New Orleans. They're going to try to just run the clock, I think, pound the rock on us, just run all over us until we could stop it. And I think on the back end, we're going to be chucking the ball around. So I'm excited for a healthy share of Michael Gallup this week.
First, I want to ask Mike, who is calling him the East Coast Mike Williams?
Oh, that's Texas. Me. I actually that's just me, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and trademark that. I have a few T-shirt ideas. I actually found a company that can engrave stuff in soaps, and
trademark it.
Would be a great soap to get out there on the market. So keep your eye out at the First Seed store for that one.
I honestly can't wait. But Michael Gallup, I remember last week that Thanksgiving game, everybody was excited. Michael Gallup, wide receiver 1 week. And then I don't think he had a target in the first quarter, and everybody was super panicking. But then he ended up with a solid 15.6 PPR game. And honestly, I see him doing just about that, if not a little bit better against the Saints defense. I think he's going to get a solid, 8 to 10 targets again this week. Whether it turns that into 100 yards, I don't know. But again, I think it's a very safe start. He's going to get a solid amount of playing time. But you're right. Amari Cooper's situation doesn't spook me. And if he does play, I think Gallup is still going to see the plays that he needs to be a solid start on your team.
Michael Gallup, really, he's just a stud when you watch him play. I mean, he just makes those big plays. When there's that over-the-shoulder catch, he always comes down with it. I really think that he is just a dude for the Cowboys. And I like you said, Mike, that you just got to respect an offense that can get its playmakers the ball. And I think with Gallup with Cooper banged up, coming back from the COVID list, and with Zeke also banged up a little bit with the knee, leg, ankle, foot injury, whatever he's got going on. That takes their 2 best playmakers out of the game right there. So I think they're going to have to rely on some other places, and if CeeDee Lamb is starting to get blanketed, then I don't see why Gallup isn't the guy that benefits from that. So love it. Great start.
Yeah, I agree. I will say I'm kind of with Amari Cooper coming back, I'm kind of hesitant to say that he'll get that wide receiver 1 outlook, but if he's for sure startable, and he should be with that defense. It's not really a hard D, so I would expect it to be really positive for wide receivers as opposed to the Saints' running defense. I'd be hesitant to expect a great day from you. Obviously, start Ezekiel Elliott, but I would be hesitant to if I was expecting 20 points that week from him. Moving on to sits, though, I'm going to start off with Damian Harris. Damian Harris is someone that, we're gonna kind of ride with the Mike Williams analogies here, but he is kind of the Mike Williams of the RBs with that touchdown upside. Um, that's the only thing that's saving this dude. That ought to be honest with you. 11 carries, 40 yards. If he didn't have a touchdown, that's 6 points. That's week 12. Week 11 against Atlanta, which is a terrible defense. He had 39% snap share, 10 carries, 56 yards, no touchdown. That was 7.5 points. I mean, if he's a goal line back, so that touchdown upside is always going to be there. And he's obviously been fortunate already this past season with the touchdown ratio. But he's always, especially with Buffalo too. That's a hard D. I don't expect him to have a lot of opportunities to be able to score with that, especially with Ramondre Stevenson kind of stepping up and taking some of the workload as well. So yeah, I'm sitting Damian Harris this week. Really hard D and then he has a bye. So yeah, it's a no for me, Damian Harris this week.
And after the bye, sorry, go ahead, Kyle. I was gonna say after the bye, he's got a couple other hard Ds coming up.
Yeah, Indy and Buffalo. It's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a rough trio of games. But yeah, I mean, we've got Mike Williams at the backfield here. Yeah, I remember seeing something last week that the Bills are a defense against running backs that you either have a Jonathan Taylor 50-point game or you get a 2-point stunner and those 2 points happen on one play. This is a tough defense that doesn't do well against, or does do really well against opposing team running backs. And I think this is going to be a game where both teams are kind of fighting for the score. So New England's not going to be ahead and running the ball whenever they want. But they're also, I don't know, they're going to be passing. It's going to be a fantastic game. I'm excited, but I don't see a great game for Damian Harris. I don't think New England's going to get anything done on the ground.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Ahead,
sorry. Go ahead,
man.
All right. I was just going to note on the on the snap count that Donte kind of brought up before. He was trending kind of in a positive direction, up around that 50% snap count earlier on in the year. But recently, after he had that 1 week that he didn't play, week 10 against Cleveland, that he missed with injury, and that kind of worked Ramondre Stevenson and Brandon Bolden into the equation, and it's just dropped his snap count since then. And I think he's really kind of been struggling to get back on a consistent train of running the ball again. And I think you can kind of really see that in his attempts and his yardage right now. So, I like the sit, especially against a difficult Buffalo defense. I think it's a good sit for this week.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing too that you guys kind of honed in on is just the game script. Can the D keep them around for the time being? They're playing the Buffalo Bills. Probably you could say AFC matchup of the year right now. For first place, they're playing for the bye, and it's going to come down to game script for me. Like I said, can the Patriots D hold them to the bare minimum amount of points? Can they keep running the ball successfully? A lot of stuff ties in there. So for me, it's if the defense is doing good, if they could hold them up a little bit, keep the ball on the ground as much as possible. He should have good enough volume to maybe get him in the end zone once or twice. But other than that, if they are at all behind in this game, if they have to open up the passing game, you could definitely expect to see all the other running backs get involved in the passing game. So Damian Harris is like a so-so play for me this week. I would definitely just in the end avoid him though for this week.
Moving to sits. I will kick us off. We already did sits. My sit of the week.
Second sit.
Second sit of the week. I'm sitting all Denver Broncos wide receivers. But I guess I'll highlight Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton should honestly already be on your bench. That man hasn't had double digits in fantasy scoring since week 7. And he's not getting the targets to give him any upside. But then Jerry Jeudy, he had a rough week this past week against the Chargers. But really, this Chiefs defense, I mean, we saw what they did 2 weeks ago before their bye week against Dallas and just completely shut that offense down. I think that Chiefs D is just going to kind of keep up that steam that they had going into the bye, come back refreshed, and play really well again. But Broncos receivers moving forward have what I think is the hardest schedule for opposing receivers in fantasy. So if you can't sit either of these guys this week, I would probably plan to sit them for the rest of the season if you can, because it doesn't look better for them. But yeah, sit any and all of them this week.
Yeah, I'll add on to that there. The Broncos in general is another one of those teams that scares me in terms of getting their best players the ball. They've surely figured it out on the ground. The balance that they have between Javonte and Melvin Gordon right now is beautiful. It's the definition of a beautiful committee right there. So that one is fine. The passing game, however, the only receiver that I would say I like going into Kansas City is probably Noah Fant. I'm not going to be too fond of any of the receivers this week. Like you said, Courtland Sutton, for the name that he is, should be dropped by this point. He shouldn't be on a fantasy roster, even though that's a hard thing to kind of get over there. But yeah, I'm totally on board. I do have a few Jerry Jeudy shares, and he will definitely be on my bench this week. So.
Go ahead, Donte. Go ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the Broncos, the defense, the schedule that they're going against, it immediately makes me want to stay away from them. If you can trade them, right now for, I mean, I guess Jerry Jeudy or Noah Fant, those are probably the only two people on that offense, as wide receiver wise, that you can get some value for. Courtland Sutton at this point, unless one of the wide receivers gets hurt, you're really not going to expect that top tier production. Unfortunately, I know as a Courtland Sutton owner, in the beginning of the season, he was looking like a top 10 wide receiver, but obviously with Jeudy coming back, the production kind of lost its value. So I agree with everything you guys just said regarding the Broncos wide receivers, and yeah, trade them if you can. Try to get some sort of value. If you could trade Jeudy for even someone like a Kyle Pitts or like a Tyler Boyd or T Higgins, if you can try and get some sort of value out of that, those are potential players I would try to transfer to. So.
I don't have anything new to add. I'm over the Broncos receiving core. I dropped Noah Fant in one of the leagues I had because I had Dan Arnold and he just tore his ACL. And I'm quite honestly, I am A-okay with whoever I can pick up off the waiver wire, just because I am over the Broncos receiving situation. Like Mike alluded to, I love their running back situation. Like it feels great to flex either Javonte or Melvin Gordon every single week, but as far as the receivers, I am hands off on all of them. If I have them in any leagues, they're on my bench or I've dropped them at this point. So I'm hands off. I think it's a great sit. Speaking of sits, I will do my sit now. I have Josh Allen this week. All right. I am waiting for all the smoke on this one because this is a big name to be sitting. But quite honestly, I am looking at the Patriots defense, and that's mainly the reason why I'm looking to sit him. The Patriots have the number one defense in the NFL right now in terms of fantasy scoring. They've been on an absolute tear recently. They have 7 straight weeks where they've picked off the opposing quarterback, which is kind of just an insane statistic if you think about it. They've produced an interception in 7 straight weeks. They're sacking the quarterback at a ridiculously high rate right now too. They're they only 1 week this season they haven't had a sack, and recently they have 5, 4, and 2 in their last 3 games. And they just really don't give up a lot of yardage. The most yardage they've given up this season, they had one fluky game against Dallas where they gave up 567 total yards. But aside from that, they give up less than 350 yards in every single game, which when you combine your passing and your rushing attacks, that's really not bad at all. That's fantastic, actually. So, and considering what Josh Allen does, and he tends to struggle when pressure is thrown at him, which is something that we've kind of seen from him this year. And he struggles when the defense has to. I'm sorry, the offense has to rely solely on him. And seeing how the Patriots have been against running backs this year, I don't expect Singletary or Breida to really get anything going on the ground. So the offense is going to have to rely on Josh Allen. And like I said, he tends to crack under that pressure a little bit. So we'll see. I think that if the Patriots can throw enough different things at him, we're going to see a bad week out of him. And that's kind of what I expect, which is why I'm sitting him.
Yeah, this is tough. This is actually really tough because I was going to agree with you, but then I just kind of looked at his stats, man. He hasn't really gone against New England. Well, he hasn't gone against New England yet, so that'll be an interesting game to keep an eye on to see if Belichick has kind of come up with his scheme for Josh Allen. But I mean, dude, 4 touchdowns last week. He hasn't had less than 2 touchdowns since week 1. And even in that game, he was excellent. So it's hard for me to. He's the number 1 quarterback in fantasy right now. It's really hard for me to say sit him, but I wouldn't expect the same level of production that he got last week, especially with the Saints with 34 points. But yeah, that the Patriots really, really, really big defense going on there. So I think that if he has the opportunities, he will get that that QB1 production that we're expecting from him, especially with Stephon Diggs. You never know what those guys what they can do, but just a tremendous defense they're going against, and it's going to be hard for me to sit him.
Zach, I'll take your Patriots have had an interception in the past 200 games stat and say that Josh Allen has thrown 2 interceptions in 3 of the last 4 games and has been just fine, except for that 9-point game against the Jaguars. But I think we all know that was a fluke of a week, and we'll look at every other week except for that one. And truthfully, I don't think you could look at your lineup and look at the waiver wire and say, I'm going to start this guy over Josh Allen. But if you've got, I don't know, a bye week locked up or a playoff spot kind of claimed already in your fantasy leagues, which if you have Josh Allen, you probably do. Maybe you just kind of feel comfortable sitting Josh. You're looking at the rest of your lineup, sitting pretty, and maybe you're just like, all right, I'll go for highest score, because I don't think Josh will be the best quarterback this week. I think he just kind of consistently has that safe floor as a quarterback, where this week he'll probably just have a 20-point performance, and maybe you look at the wire and play a Carson Wentz or a Taysom Hill and shoot for a highest score this week just for the hell of it. If you've already claimed a playoff spot. But aside from that, I don't think I can sit Josh Allen any given week.
My thing is, like, who do you sit him for? Like, if you're starting that team, if you have him starting on your lineup, like, who's your backup quarterback that you're gonna start ahead of him? You know what I mean? Unless you have like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, or like Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, which I don't know why you would ever be in those situations, but just for who you're sitting, man, it's like I really just don't see who's a better option for Josh, number 1 quarterback in fantasy right now.
So Kyle mentioned that he has a solid floor. I agree with that completely. I think his floor is somewhere around 15 or 16 points. Like, I think he is guaranteed to get that. And if you're comfortable with that and that's going to win you your week, by all means, But if you are looking for, I think my argument here is not to sit Josh Allen. I think it's to be weary of Josh Allen and know that that there is a greater chance than usual that he underperforms what you're expecting from him. And to answer your question, Donte, like Joe Burrow, Carson Wentz, Kyle mentioned Taysom Hill. You never really know what to expect out of him with the rushing upside and stuff and all that good stuff. And even honestly, you're gonna laugh at me for it, but I like Tua this week. I think that all 4 of those guys have a chance to potentially exceed Josh Allen in points scored this week. And that's kind of what I'm just kind of comparing against, is saying that those guys, I think, have a chance to outscore him, a better than usual chance, and Josh has a better than usual chance to underperform in comparison to how he usually performs. It's not necessarily sit him, because you're right. I mean, you probably don't have someone better than Josh Allen. Like, I'm not going to sit him for Kirk Cousins, or I'm not going to sit him for Taylor Heineke or someone like that. But I'm just saying, in comparison, I think that those other guys that I mentioned potentially have a shot to outscore him this week, a better than usual shot, I should say.
Yeah, and I'll be kind of the divider here. Zach, I'm on your side here. I think that Josh Allen's floor is going to be pretty low this week, and I think that he's going to not hit his projection of 27. Few reasons. Just Josh Allen in general. If you look at his stats, I mean, there's only one argument to say he might have a bust week ever, and that was the fluke week against Jacksonville. So right there's not really an argument. But then you look at this Patriots D, man, and they are playing phenomenal. Hard defense. They don't give up in games. They stick around. This team is playing phenomenal, and for a team that is so one-dimensional like the Bills with no run game at all, I can't see Bill Belichick losing a game like that. I can't see him going into this game knowing that Josh Allen's going to have to throw the ball 40 times to win and just letting that happen. They have talented corners, J.C. Jackson out there, tons of other guys on that defense that just make plays, and they're not too fond of giving up the deep ball. So I really want to see kind of how that Bills offense is going to match up with that Patriots D, because it's not going to be an easy one for him. And I think besides that Jacksonville game, this will be his second worst game of the year. And even to go back a little bit, Zach, you said you wouldn't play Kirk Cousins over him. I'm going to go on a limb and say I will play Kirk Cousins over Josh Allen this week.
Yeah, now you're tweaking. I'm
do it. Listen, Kirk Cousins has been
against Detroit. Against
the Lions, I see a lot of upside there, and I just think this is a game that Belichick is not going to let Josh Allen have his way. No way with all this preparation time after seeing him on last Thursday night. I can't see it happening. So I'm riding with the D here. I'm not even going to give Josh Allen a chance here. I'm sticking with the Patriots.
All right, you're up with the sit too.
I'll keep it
hopefully
going.
Hopefully it's not as hot as a take as starting Kirk Cousins over Josh Allen.
not as hot. No, not as big as the Patriots D. But yeah, let me stick with mine. I got Montgomery on the bench this week. I'm going to go ahead and keep David Montgomery there for a few reasons. Main reason, the team is in shambles right now. Nothing seems to be working on that team. Obviously, a ton of stuff is going with pressure on the head coach and stuff in the locker room and stuff like that. This is just a team that I want to stay away from. They obviously have trouble getting Allen Robinson the ball. Obviously, even David Montgomery, they can't get back up to speed from earlier in the season. You look at his last 4 weeks, and he hasn't done much, or 3 weeks rather. 10 points, 7 points, and 10 points in full point PPR. And that's with seeing 2 receptions in one game, 1 and 3 in the other one. So, like, the passing game is there, and it just seems like he can't find the end zone right now, which was the difference maker between how good he was last year and what he's doing this year. So, I also, on top of everything, I forgot to mention, he does play Arizona this week, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm not going to stick him in my lineup. If he's given me 10-7 against teams of worse calibers like the Detroit Lions, I mean, what is he going to give me against the Arizona Cardinals defense or D line? So Monty's a sit for me. It's sad. I remember putting up a video with Kyle a few weeks ago saying how we love Monty and we were looking to go grab him to trade for him when he comes back from the injury. And just so far, it's been a mess. And I more so won't blame that on him. He looks good. I'll just blame it on the team in general right now. It's a little bit of a sloppy situation. So I'm sitting most Bears, but definitely this week I'm sitting Montgomery.
Yeah, I think they're facing a really hard Arizona Cardinals defense. Montgomery is struggling after this injury, which is weird because it's been a few weeks, but he isn't balling out like we expect him to be. And it's not a great matchup for him. And I'm not excited about it. I'm not excited about slotting him into my lineups. So I am very comfortable slotting him into my bench.
I don't particularly have anything else to add. I agree. Montgomery's a sit at this point. The Bears are just awful. I don't think that they're a good football team. You know what? We'll just do this a different direction. I saw a tweet the other day. If you combine the Lions and the Bears, how many teams would they win, or how many games would they win in the NFL season?
I'd guess maybe 4, 2, 3
combined.
I
would say.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was confused on the question. That's why.
I would probably put him at 8 wins combined. Like if you took the best players from the Lions, and you took the best players from the Bears, and you put them on the team together, how many would they win?
Ooh, the talent that they have, that team could do stuff. You talk about a backfield with Swift and Montgomery. That's pretty deadly there.
Yeah, but you still have to pick between Dalton, Fields, and Goff as your starting quarterback. Like that's what's holding both of those teams back right now.
Yeah, that and the weak D. I wouldn't want any part of those teams.
Weak D.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead. With David Montgomery, yeah, this week is going to look rough, but his schedule going forward, man. If you're a playoff contending team and you have him on your roster, or even if you're contending and the trade deadline isn't up for you yet, I'd trade for him immediately. They have one of the easiest schedules when it comes to playoff schedules. You're looking at Minnesota week 15, Seattle week 16, and then the Giants week 17. If you're playing your championship week 18, I feel sorry for you, and your commissioner should be banned from ever making a league again. But the next week 15 through 17, those are going to be the weeks where production matters. And when it comes to fantasy football in general, all you have to do is just make the playoffs, man. Once you're in the dance, it's all up for grabs. So that's why playoff schedules are so important. And it's why this week, as it pertains to this week, of course, I'd probably be hesitant on expecting anything RB1 wise from David Montgomery, but I'd be very, very. You just got to ride with him. You just got to ride with him until playoffs come, and hopefully his value will increase there. But that's it. Anything from you guys regarding any players? Just to recap, what do we get? Micah is sitting David Montgomery. Kyle's sitting all the Broncos wide receivers. Zach's sitting Josh Allen. And I'm sitting Damian Harris.
McDonald or Montgomery, rather. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's my sit.
And then the starts, Zach starting Waddle, Kyle starting Ayuk. Mike, you're starting
Michael Gallup,
and I will be starting Foster Moreau. Let's see if any of those players produce. As always, it's a pleasure being with you guys. First seed out.